Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today, I'm going to try to do the unthinkable. That's right, I'm going to make a character tier list. Now, there's a guarantee that many of you will be outraged. This is a personal list, what I think is the best. And then a better caveat is every character in this base set is good. Like, there's no tier where it's like these are total garbage, you'll never play them. It's just ranking them in what I think are the better characters versus the worst characters. But really, FFG has done an amazing job and made all playable characters. So let's start at what I think is the very top, the tippity top. That is Jango Fett and Count Dooku. Both of these characters do something that is really sort of breaking the game. For Jango Fett, it's getting to activate and then resolve your dice before your opponent can do anything about that. That is an incredibly strong ability. Once you load him up with some upgrades, he's a real wrecking ball. He's hard to deal with. He's nearly impossible for newer players to deal with. They just don't know what to do. It feels unfair to them. His 10 health is the only thing that sort of holds him back at all. Thank goodness he only has 10 health because this dude is amazing. Count Dooku is almost the opposite. He's not doing a ton of damage, but to me, he is the control card. If you want to play a control deck, for me, you're looking at a Count Dooku deck. And the reason is his health. And you might look at that and go, Tiny, he has 10 health. But really, he has more like 15 because of his ability to discard cards, to prevent damage. It's really hard to kill Dooku outside of Jango Fett Jetpack, Han Solo Jetpack, modified side rolls. Those are really the only ways to blitz him down quickly. So what ends up happening is you kill the other guys with Count Dooku. Count Dooku's always left at the end. He's loaded up because of the holocron, and he becomes a complete wrecking ball beast. So for me personally, these are the two best characters in the game, but there are many other amazing ones as well. So for me, the next tier is two amazing characters that you could easily argue belong in the top tier as well. Jabba the Hutt is an even better control card than Dooku. The problem is he only has 11 health, which is not really an only, but he dies first. Like if you play an Elite Dooku, Elite Jabba deck, they're going to kill Jabba. If you play a one-die Vader Elite Jabba deck, they're going to kill Jabba. So while he is bonkers, he becomes this big target. He dies a little too quickly. And then also because he doesn't have a single damage side on him, he's a little bit less flexible. But he is amazing. His sides are great. Two focus. So what makes him so great is he fits into a plethora of decks. He fits into a straight mill deck. He would fit into a resource denial deck pretty good. He fits in just a random dude that costs 11 and has 11 health. That's pretty darn good. 1-to-1 ratio with this ability to re-roll any yellow die. That means your opponent's yellow die. That means one of your other characters die. That means Jabba's die. He's incredibly flexible. I love him. Han Solo is awesome. Like, I talk about Dooku having 10 health or having more like 15 health. Solo can have like 25 health. With enough shields, with second chance, he is just great. The only reason I put him a notch below Dooku is because I haven't found a great deck where he flourishes sort of on his own. He usually pairs with Rey, and Rey is what makes him so good because he's able to cheat out his dice, essentially rolling them and then resolving them immediately. I feel like Solo would be in this first tier if he had 3 damage sides. He would just be unbelievably good. But he's still phenomenal, very arguably tier 1. You could even argue he's the best character in the game. He's that good. And his 2 resource sides give you this incredible flexibility that you could play him in what most people do, which is like a Han Rey burst damage deck. But I'm more interested actually in playing him as a single die 14 cost character whose job is to put out resources, but then be flexible to be able to push damage in matchups where you need it. It's a deck that I'm still working on. It's a work in progress, but I feel like Han is a little underrated right now because we pigeonholed him into one specific archetype, and I think especially as we get more sets, he's going to break out of that and be potentially the best character in the game. All right, so I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to see me putting Vader in a third tier. And I think that's just because I, made the Vader Raider deck that became popular. I'm not the inventor of it, of course. I think we all invented this together, but I made a video, I published the deck list, and I've played a lot of Vader, and I love Vader. The problem is, he's so expensive. Like, at 16 cost for a single die, I could have a 2-dice Dooku, or I could have a 1-dice Dooku with 5 points to spare. So, as a control card, while Vader's dice are great, and while his ability is amazing to make them mill a card, even in a mill deck, I'm generally looking at Vader and going, he's a little slow. Like, he's a little bit slow. One a turn's great, but especially with the new tournament rules, I don't think you can take, 14 turns to mill them to death with Vader. I think he's just a little bit overcosted. He's, of course, really strong as an aggro card with, like, the Vader Raider deck, but that, I still feel like that deck isn't that as good as people think it is. I just think he's this weird card where he's sort of waiting for more possibilities. Maybe we're going to get a more impactful 7-cost character that you can run Vader and 2 of them. I don't know what's going to end up happening, but I feel like he's good, but not quite as great as we all think he is. In fact, I think his value is going to drop substantially in the next couple months as people start to realize maybe Vader's not as good as I thought he was. General Grievous is very similar to Vader, and in fact, I think Grievous is substantially better than Vader, with the caveat that there's no deck for him. There's nothing to pair Grievous with at 12 points that makes enough of an impact to make his aggro deck better than Vader's. He has so much less health at 3 less. It's just a ton when the person is realizing I have to kill this target. 10 melts a lot quicker than 13. You don't get all the blue cards, which is rough. Red is not great at mitigation. So you're in this weird spot where you're like, well, I guess I'll pair him with Dooku, and then when Grievous inevitably dies, Dooku hopefully will be strong enough to carry the day. I just feel like Grievous with a different card pool would probably be in actually the first tier, and he'll probably move there at some point as we get more people to pair him with. Just imagine if you could pair Grievous with Rey. That would be a tier 1 deck, maybe the best deck in the game. Being able to have a 3 damage side guy that you could continually pump out rolls without being able to be mitigated in any way before you're resolving them. The other thing holding him back is red is a gun deck, or a gun color. So you like Kylo's lightsaber would be great on him, but it can't go on him. So there's a very small amount of upgrades you can put on him that do melee damage. I just feel like he's this, he almost feels like he was designed as a blue card, and then at the last second FFG was like, let's make him red. And just the card pool doesn't support him well at all. I think it will in the future, though. Phasma is such a great card. Her ability is what makes her amazing, being able to have Guardian. She's super flexible. That's why I put her in this tier, though, that she doesn't carry the day on her own. She needs to be with somebody. Like, she's a great card. This whole tier is great cards. But she needs to be with somebody, and she's only going to get stronger over time as we have more and more options to pair her with. She's just great. Rey, also, not a card that's going to carry the day on her own. In fact, her dice are downright bad, but her cost is insane for that ability. Being able to do double ambush plays with any ambush cards is so good. As we see more ambush cards, especially in other factions, we're going to see other combos pop up. It won't just be Han Rey, it'll be Rey X. And that'll be really fascinating, and because of that, Rey could easily move up, but she's solidly in a really strong tier. And Veers is just a dude that does a lot of damage, but that 9 health to me really holds me back. I think the reason why we're seeing some Veers is because if you pair him with Jango, the 9 health isn't as bad because your opponent has to kill Jango. What, you're gonna leave Jango alone to kill Veers? That's madness. So Veers gets a chance to really shine in that deck. But again, I feel like he's kind of carried by Jango. He's a good card on his own. And I think as the pool becomes deeper, he becomes better and better. His action will become better and better and better. Being able to turn maybe some cheaper supports that are still really strong to good sides. He's going to have a place for sure. At 11 cost, with that ability and those sides, he's real good. All right, so this next tier is kind of an oddball tier. It's like 4 good characters that are really bad a lot of the time. So, like, Padme is great in a really dedicated mill deck. Like, that's her spot. Any other deck, not so much. Not having any damage on there is really rough. 10 cost isn't too bad, but if I wanted to play somebody just to have a yellow card, I'd probably go cheaper and play the Hired Gun, which is also a solid card. She's just an interesting card with a great ability. The one downside of her is that I feel like any of these slow decks, whether it be mill, whether it be grinding shields, are really hampered by the tournament rules that have come out. I'll have a whole podcast on that next week, and we'll sort of talk about what the impact is. But if those tournament rules change, I think both of these characters' status could go up. Akbar is a really weird character in that he's a little more flexible. He looks kind of bad at only 9 health. His sides aren't that great. But what's really great is his 2 focus. The 2 focus is so strong with cards like All In. I made a whole video about how you can have one single focus die on the board. You play All In, you turn Akbar to the double focus, you turn 2 other dice, and you just wreck face. So he's really good in that regard. He's great with like Akbar 2 troopers. It's a trap. Those are all great combos. It's all stuff that is only going to get better over time. Like I said, FFG did a great job with these characters. They're all good. It's just some seem like they're going to be better in the future. Politic is a character that he's a meta-dependent character. Like, he's either awesome or he's not that great. I've been running a Politic deck lately, and against 3 or more character decks, he's insane. Against 2 character decks, though, it's kind of like, okay, 8 for 8's not bad. 11 for 2 dice 8, that's also not bad. His sides aren't bad, but that ability is not coming into play as much. Maybe once, maybe 0, depending on how it shakes out. So he's really good in the right meta. He's going to be a real interesting card as this game continues to develop over time, as the meta shifts back and forth from more characters to less characters. His next tier is basically really solid non-uniques that do not carry decks on their own, but they're very good. All 3 of these cards I like a lot. I saw somebody recently say, is Hired Gun the worst card in the game? No, he's great. Like, yes, he's not a higher tier because he doesn't do quite enough, but in the right deck, this dude is amazing. You have 2 resource sides, so he can go into any sort of like resource deck. He has 2 pretty solid damage sides. Yeah, you have to pay for him, so you probably want him in some sort of resource deck. Maybe Rebel War Room is your battlefield, so you can just do the 3 for 0 instead of 1. He's just really solid. Padawan, those sides. She's a mini Grievous. A mini Grievous who gets a turn 1 lightsaber for 2, or if you have it binds all things out, 1. She's really strong in like a triple blue hero deck. Very, very good card. And Rebel Trooper is great. You put Guardian on any card in the game, and I'm going to say, I like that card. That card is a good card. And he has 3 damage sides. So with stuff like It's a Trap, he becomes really good. Like, he's already got damage showing. With All In, he's really good. This is just a really solid card. And notice, we're almost all the way to the bottom. I'm still saying how all the cards are good and solid. All right, so this brings us to the second to last tier. And this is probably surprising for some of you. I'm sure some of you love some of these characters. Let's start with Poe. I love Poe. To me, Poe is the most fun deck in the game, hands down. He's awesome. I love him. But he's not that consistent, and he's crazy expensive. He has 3 damage sides, which is awesome. And I definitely think Poe is one of these sleeping giants that when we get even one more set, he'll probably suddenly burst all the way up to tier 1. But right now, whenever I see a Poe deck, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll probably just kill Poe, or I'll just control his specials and then win pretty easily. Like, I'm just not that worried about Poe decks. It melts to so many different things. Discard crushes it because then the vehicles that you want to do go away. You end up having weird hands sometimes where you have all these super expensive vehicles just praying to roll the special, and then you miss. And then you have to end up discarding a handful of them to actually get useful cards. Then you roll the special, and then you don't have them anymore. He's just a really hard card to play. I love him, but I just don't think he's great yet. Luke Skywalker is another one of these cards. Like Vader, he's I want to say overcosted, and I think he is overcosted for his ability. It's not that good. You get to draw a card in a game where you have tons of card draws. Not that great. He only has 2 damage sides. He has 12 health, but so does Poe. I don't know. He's just too much for me. I think at some point we'll find a deck where he will be really, really good. There's a couple decks where he's fine. Like, he's a fine character. All these characters are fine, usable characters. It's just they're not quite as good as the other ones. Kylo Ren, I think, is the one people are going to be the most upset about. Because he's pretty cheap, actually, 10-13. He has 3 damage sides. I just don't like him very much. I don't think he's that good. The damage sides aren't very good. A 1, a 2 that costs 1, and then a mystery damage side, which is highly dependent on the meta. I mean, if you're playing against Poe decks, yeah, sure, run this dude. But if you're playing against most decks aren't running any super expensive cards except for maybe a Mind Probe or something. So I look at Kylo Ren and I say, I love him for his cost, but I don't know. At 10 for a blue character, I could run a Night Sister for only 8. I could run the best character in the game, Dooku, at 11. Like, to me, that's the biggest problem for Kylo Ren, is he's only 1 cheaper than Dooku. That's what holds him back for me. Night Sister is another card that's pretty solid. The problem is, for me, it's action reroll a die. And so that means if you reroll your opponent's die and it comes up good, you're just screwed. So you can't really be like all in on that saving you. The other thing is, her health is so low that I just kill her. Anytime I see her on the board, unless there's somebody super scary with her, I just kill the Night Sister. So she's solid. I really like that she has 2 range sides, which is interesting. The problem, of course, is it holds her back in that blue doesn't have any range. So she has to go with some other colors. She's interesting. I think she's going to be a card that we'll end up seeing a deck at some point that uses her, maybe even 2 of them. Because at only 8, that's not that bad. Like, you could go some really interesting combinations to get to 16 and have 14 left. But I don't know. We'll see. Stormtrooper, it's a solid card. Like, yeah, he's in a low tier, but he's still fine. He's got 2 blanks, which is a problem, but he's got 3 damage sides. He's 7 for 7. I like the Stormtrooper a lot. He's just not amazing. And Tusken Raider is a really interesting card. Like, I don't know what to say about this guy. 9 for 8 is rough. I'll start there. Like, if he was 9 for 9 or 9 for 10, he would be way higher on my tier list. 9 for 8 is pretty rough. He dies fairly quickly. And though he has 3 damage sides, 2 are only 1 damage. And so you look at that and you're like, okay, that's interesting. The 3 is great, but it costs 1. And in the deck that I've been playing in, which is the Vader Raider deck, resources are at premium. So I don't just have one just floating in case I happen to roll that side. It's usually being used for something else, so that's kind of tricky. His ability is amazing. He's a mini Jango Fett, so theoretically he should be substantially higher. I feel like the problem with Raider is you only get to resolve 1 die, right? So you can't do this thing where you have like a massive dice and then the Raider anchors it. He has to have a great thing happening that you can then immediately resolve. And the problem is, as soon as you put a great thing on him to have happen, he will die. And so he has to be paired with somebody super scary like Vader to even have a shot. So that's why he's really low on this list. He's good, but I don't know. I don't love where he's at. I feel like as we move forward with this game and there are more Guardians around, we could have a really cool deck where you actually just load up the Raider with awesome things with a bunch of Guardians on the board so he doesn't take damage. And that could be a really interesting way to really exploit that ability. Brings us to the bottom tier. Again, both of these characters are fine. Leia and Finn. Leia especially looks good. 3 damage sides. A really interesting action where you can re-roll 2 of your dice. That's solid. The problem is her cost. If she was like 912 or 1114 or something, she would be a lot better. But at 16, there's not a lot you get to pair her with. It's like a 1-die Poe, a 1-die Han if you want to do 2. She's just not quite cost effective enough to me. Like, she's fine, but her cost is too much for what she has. I've seen a lot of people say she's great and they've used her to great effect, and I can definitely see that. It's just in my experience, like, she's She's just a little bit too inefficient. And Finn, exactly the same. Exactly the same problem. 13-16 is even worse. So like if you want to run the Poe Finn deck, you actually have to run 2 Finn, 1 Poe, which is horrible. You want to run 2 Poes, 1 Finn. If Finn cost 12-16, he would be good. It would be a very good Poe Finn deck. He doesn't. I think that 1 cost for this base set hurts him too much. The ability to include red villain weapons and vehicles is not enough. The vehicles are not good enough. The ATST is way too overcosted. The weapons at this point, you're basically getting like the Stormtrooper rifle. That's not enough to me to include Finn. I think this is a card that skyrockets with another set as we have more weapons, more vehicles, more options for Finn to exploit. He becomes better. He's another card that has 3 damage sides, so that's really good. But they're low damage sides. So it's like when you roll 1 damage against Dooku, it's basically rolling 0. And so it's these kind of problems that hold him back. But again, he's fine. He's just not higher on the list. So that's my personal ranking of the characters. I'm very curious to hear what yours is. I'm sure it's very different. And remember very carefully, I said, FFG has done a great job. All of these characters are reasonable. If you open a Leia, don't cry. You're fine. Just build a Leia deck. It's no problem. They're all fine. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games. And if you want to support the channel, you can go over to brokenegggames.com. Go ahead and order what you were going to order anyway. Put in the discount code coupon TGGames, and you'll be able to send a little bit my way to help the channel keep going. So I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the video.